Welcome to Bond's Backyard's first official podcast. Been practicing this thing for a little while now. No one's got to hear anything because it hasn't been any good. There's a reason why it wasn't released, because it was crap. But been having a little bit of a crack at this Bond's Backyard thing over the last sort of couple of months. I don't really know what it's supposed to be yet. I'm just having a go at doing something outside of work. Something a bit of a passion project, you know. And I've got the pleasure of welcoming to the podcast one of the all-time great purveyors of shit chat, also known as a former Brisbane Roar player, a bloke who's got the highest score in Stanthorpe cricket in the last decade, but also the man responsible for nearly killing the two of us in a car accident 7 years ago. Cameron Crestani, welcome to the podcast. How are you, mate?
Oh, going good, mate. As good as I could be on a Friday evening.
It's a Friday evening, and we're in the middle of Supercoach time, actually, and we were just talking about the footy before, but you're not even in Supercoach finals, mate. It's disappointing.
No, but I'll just bring it back to that earlier remark you made of me scoring the highest runs in Stanthorpe cricket in the past decade, and how it must just be embarrassing that my highest score is also bigger than your accumulated total in the last decade.
That's not inaccurate, I would say. For people who are aware, Camo, 206, what was that?
206, not out, just put that out there.
Oh my God.
Off about, I think it was like maybe 120 balls, maybe?
That would have to, that doesn't sound real. And it didn't seem real when I opened up my cricket that day and I saw Cameron Crestani 206.
Had many of those remarks. I was Steve Middleton, one of those remarks.
I was like, this for a start, it's not real. And I was, second of all, I was like, this isn't Camo. He's not that good at cricket. He started playing when he was about 17. And now you're 24 and you've got 3 or 4 tons to your name. I've got 1, which I hit the other day.
Yeah.
Shout out to myself.
Shout out to yourself.
Shout out to myself.
It was a good ton to be a part of.
Yeah, thanks. Well, yeah, it was good to see you out early so I could hit more runs than you and get my own ton.
That's just the kind of guy I am, just nice and generous.
Yeah, look, that's questionable. But Camo, we're here today just to have a quick yarn. I guess you're the only mate that I have, not in general. I do have some other friends, but you are the only mate that I have who's been a professional athlete, which I think is a really cool achievement, especially coming from a small town like Stanthorpe. I mean, we grew up together, we've known each other for a long time. Like I said before, we were nearly killed in a car accident, which you were 100% responsible for. So we've been through quite a lot.
It's not 100%. We went the way you wanted to go.
Yeah, true. I mean, I pointed us on the route which got us into the car accident.
Yeah.
But mate, you're behind the wheel.
But we just did the Red Shield door knock appeal. We were just trying to do our bit. Just got our free Macca's burger. Life was good.
It was good. Nearly turned upside down. Well, literally did go upside down
Literally
a couple times. But we'll get into that one. We'll get into that one a little bit later. But mate, so how is Peninsula going at the moment? So you're playing in the NPL. Yeah. It's been through COVID. You know, where's Peninsula at the moment? Where are you guys at the table, and how's everything going there?
I think when you touched on with COVID, I think it's like everything is a bit of a testing time, and we just started our season probably 3 or 4 games into it, and then COVID shut it down. It was a really weird period of the life, like not knowing whether you're going to come back, or there was a lot of talk about we just bin the season and not come back. But then gradually gained momentum that we were going to start the season again, and it kind of got you up after about 6 to 8 weeks of drinking. You're like, geez, I need to do something. I need to do something really hard here. I really need to work. But just that motivation for that initial probably 6 weeks of training when you could only do a couple of people at a time, you couldn't have big groups and whatnot. And then once we got back together as a team, you're just like, yep, finally, we're starting to go. And then we changed formation during that period, and we worked on it for about 8 to 10 weeks, and we played against East and lost against them, and we weren't really happy about how the way we went about it and whatnot, and went back to our old formation, and since then we haven't looked back, and we've won I think 6 on the trot now, and we're sitting in first place with a game in hand. So and we've probably I think we conceded 1 goal in 6 games or something. So
and you must be proud of that fact, I guess, playing centre back now, and I think for anyone who's friends with you on Facebook, probably wouldn't have missed that you've been in a few teams of the week.
Yeah.
So you must be proud of that defensive effort that you guys are putting in. Do you guys have, I guess the whole team must be fully up for now bringing home a championship, and how many more rounds are there, and how close are we to finals?
Yeah, so I think one of the big points that drew me to Penn Power were the fact that they want to win things, and they're very professional in the way they go about it. So obviously winning is something that everyone wants to do, but it's not achievable, and I think it's very achievable with the group we've got. the players and the coaching staff and the facilities we've been provided, and if we just continue to build and whatnot, like we'll get there. We're playing midweek games as well along the way
to try to catch up on the fixtures.
So they're now talking, instead of an original season finishing in September, we're now finishing November.
Yeah.
So I think every second week we'll be playing a midweek game. So 3 games in a week, which means you got to have a good squad around you. Otherwise, it's injury central and whatnot. So I think start of November is probably the end of season, and then 2 weeks of finals, and then that's it. And then beyond that, I don't know what they're going to do with next season, how later they start and what, because November is usually when you start pre-season.
Oh, right, okay. So it is, I mean, just like every other league, just not in Australia obviously, but globally, the fixtures are being pushed out. They're being caught up midweek. Like we saw that in the Premier League. We've seen it in the basketball when they've come back and they're doing their COVID bubble. Even the NRL was shortening it to 20 rounds. The AFL had that AFL frenzy where they played like so many games in a shorter period of time. Yeah. Who's going to be who are the main rivals for you guys, do you think, coming into finals time? Who's going to be right up there that you expect to see in the grand final?
I think you obviously got to throw ourselves in the mix for the grand final, but then you've got like Olympic, Gold Coast Knights, Lions, and then you just got a couple of dark horses in the competition that can kind of pop a result anywhere, and you got like Brisbane City and like Gold Coast United and stuff. So a lot of teams are, you intend to beat them, but they're just popping results up every now and then, just beating teams that, like last week, Sunny Coast Wanderers beat Gold Coast Knights. So bottom beat second, and beat them 4-1. So
it's quite an even league all around there from top to bottom. Like you're playing competitive football week on week. I mean, I guess that's what's happened now since Football Queensland have moved into that promotion relegation. It's not like you're not going to get the stragglers at the bottom of an NPL ladder who are just going to get beaten week on week, because you're going to get relegated if that's going to happen. You're going to bring in the next most competitive teams. Yeah. So have you found that this season that most of the competition's been quite even?
I think you found maybe at the start of the season. I think actually you find now that post-COVID, well, we're still in COVID, but post that break, is everything's come a lot closer than what it was prior to those 4 games prior. There was teams losing 5-6, 7-0. Right. And now we've come back in after COVID, and teams are losing 3-2 or 2-1 and getting, like I said before, results you don't expect to get. But that's also aided by the fact that NPL Victoria's not gone ahead now. Like they've shut down their season. So now teams up here are signing players on loan, which, of my understanding, it doesn't affect the points salary cap that's in the league.
Oh, right, okay.
So there's a lot of Queensland-based players that were down there have now come up to here and are now filtering into teams.
Right. So have you had any additions to your squad since?
The only one we've had is Andy Pengelly, because he's playing over in Singapore, and so he's come back, and he originally signed with us before he went over there on that pro deal. So he's come back to us, but we haven't had anyone else. But the other big teams like Olympic and Gold Coast Knights and Lions, they've got a couple of players in and strengthened.
Are there a few still like big names that are running around in the NPL, like a few former A-League guys that you are coming up against?
Yeah, like Solozano that played with the Roar, and Mitch Nichols, who'd been around many teams.
Yeah, I saw him he was on a team. He was on a team of the week.
Yeah, so he plays at Gold Coast Knights. He has for the last couple of years. He's quality. You got Matt
Did Mitch
Smith.
Nichols did he get a Socceroos cap? I feel like he might have got a couple.
He probably did.
Yeah, I mean he was handy. He was handy in like the prime Raw days.
Well, he's played like a good couple hundred A-League games, so he's got to be a decent footballer if he's done that. But he's quality. You got like Matt Smith's still floating around the league.
Oh yeah.
Michael Thwaite and Shane Smeltz are both playing at Gold Coast United.
Oh, far out.
So like the
A-League's second all-time top goal scorer.
Shane Smeltz.
He must be pretty old, but he'd have to be 40, wouldn't he?
He'd be maybe 38 or something like that, I reckon. But can still score goals.
Still sniffs out a goal, I imagine.
Always played for New Zealand, like the national team, and played scored many goals, like you said, in the A-League. So I guess no matter how old you are, you still got that eye for goal. It's just that you can't run. Yeah. So, and I can't run. I'm 24, but
that's good, mate. Yeah. Well, we'll wind back to more NPL stuff later, like around your Western Pride stuff. But we just want to take this all the way back to the start now. For anyone who doesn't know, Cameron Crestani, the Crestani family, about your journey from the Granite Belt to professional football, Granite Crestani, as they called you in your debut, which we were all cheering about at home.
Yeah.
tell us a little bit about growing up in Stanthorpe, you know, your family situation, what your parents do, and I guess like where your original love for football originated.
Yeah, okay. Well, I got a family of 7, 4 brothers.
Big family.
Big family.
5 boys altogether.
5.
That's insane.
6 including Frank, but...
yeah, 6 including the old man. Yeah, that's it.
Poor Sonia.
And Sonia's one of the boys too.
Yeah, one of the lads. And mum and dad own and run their own produce company. Primarily broccoli is the mainstay, and then work between the two, like work between something else, whether it's leeks or whatnot. So grew up on the farm, family run farm, don't employ anyone external and whatnot. So 3 older brothers just played soccer or football, as you call it, before me, and just in the backyard. I guess that's just how I fell into it. My family played it, dad played it and whatnot, so just fell into it that way and started playing when I was about 5 in Stanthorpe Junior Soccer Association.
And the thing is though, like it wasn't like it was just 5 boys who just sort of kicked the ball around in the backyard as a bit of a joke. Like you and all 5 of you together are quality footballers. And I guess you often see when like an athlete does eventually sort of become professional and you sort of, you know, peek into their backstory. There's like, oh, their dad used to play in the NRL, or like, oh, they had a grandfather who used to play cricket for Queensland or something. There's always seems to be like, there's something involved in that really early stage development, which is like, okay, there's a reason why this bloke was pretty good. And for me, well, I mean, it's quite obvious for all of us who played soccer in Stanthorpe. There was one Crestani in basically every age group, and they were all a gun. Like it was. So your games of football in the backyard, they weren't just like someone dominating the rest of yours. It was that's 5 quality footballers going at each other in the backyard.
Yeah, like I guess if we were closer in age and had the ability to, like, and I guess if the pathways were there earlier, I reckon my brothers would have gone further than what they did. Yeah. But I just think the pathways weren't there established, especially for a country kid. You either had to be in, like, I guess, in a Toowoomba Grammar or Harristown or something, or you'd have to be in Brisbane to get somewhere. But unfortunately for them, the pathways weren't there.
Because obviously, we'll get to Southwest eventually, but did your brothers like have? I know Andy played Southwest,
so
but like, did Simon and Mark? Like, what were the rep opportunities that were available that they might have missed out on?
Later on, maybe when they were probably like 24 and 26 or something, like Mark and Simo, they played Southwest, but it was back in I think the old QSL days. So, but Southwest get pumped, I guess, in that, and so you wouldn't really go any further than that, and I guess you needed a tap on the shoulder if you wanted to go further, and you needed someone to guide you there. But I guess it wasn't really anyone.
I think in I guess football Queensland has obviously restructured a number of times the development pathways, but I think now it's actually been a really positive thing seeing a team like Southwest Queensland Thunder get involved in those higher leagues of Queensland football. They're not in the NPL.
No, but they're top of the QPL. So
right, so that's great for Toowoomba going down to football.
Yeah.
So in terms of your own development, obviously, I remember playing junior soccer with you at like the earliest age. Yeah. And I think it was clear to a lot of us at the start that, you know, there's always like a gun player in each age group, right? And it was like, Camo's pretty handy. And I remember like at training, we'd always try and take you out because it was like, if we're going to get shown up by someone, it's going to be Camo. So let's take him out. And this was in like the young days, like sort of, I remember like under 8s and 9s just being like, fuck, I'm so jealous of this bloke because he can play. Yeah. But you know, when it's not often you see, like it could be in any sport, you know, from a small town, you know, you've got your best player playing in the cricket team, where you've got someone who's good at rugby league. It's not very often that, you know, a representative pathway, you know, begins and is sort of completed. But where did it start for you? What was the first rep team that you sort of made your way into?
Well, obviously, like you said, we had the Stanthorpe rep team, and we built on that. And I think we only lost 2 carnivals from the age of 5 to 12.
Mate, we were pretty handy.
Yeah, so we only lost 2 carnivals in that time, and the other times we made a semi and lost in a final. So, I mean, like, we had a good bunch of boys there and whatnot. But then I think the first opportunity came with Darling Downs and made shadow for that, and I was like, oh, must be like handy enough.
This is under 12s.
Or under 11s at that stage. But it was for under 12s, but I was 11 at that stage.
Okay, yeah.
So then I was like, oh, must be kind of handy enough, and mum and dad, I guess, obviously saw that, and having Andrew play with Southwest a couple of years before that in the development side, they're like, oh, chance our arm, and so see how he goes. So then I think I went up with like Lockie Gavin and Alex Bell, and we went and trialled in Toowoomba for the under-12s, and I made development that year originally, and Lockie made the top side, and then I was sitting at having dinner with mum and dad, and the coach calls me and goes, "Oh, how would you feel like if you're playing like the JPL side it was that back in the day?"
Yeah.
And I was like, "Oh hell yeah!" And mum and dad was like, "What's going on?" Like I was like, "I probably should let you speak to mum and dad first before I make that commitment, I guess." So that's kind of where it started, and then I made the Darling Downs side as well that year, and you made the possibles probables with me.
Yeah, that's right. I have a funny yarn also just about this, you getting called up into the top team, which you may not even know about. But one bloke who's a mutual friend of ours, if he's listening, Michael Van Gen, always tells me every time, he's like, I pulled out. That's why Camo got the call up, and he reckons he's the reason why you turned into a professional footballer. So shout out Goonie if you're listening.
Shout out to Goonie.
Shout out to Goonie.
Yeah. So
friend of the podcast.
So yeah, from that, like made Southwestern and that, and then I think it really kicked off when I was 14.
So this is when. So we're obviously into high school now, and you've been out of the loop of what our rep team was. So we obviously continued just playing in our Stanthorpe competition, and we were still going along to rep carnivals. And I guess even without the JPL guys, because obviously you and Belly and Lockie were playing JPL, we were still still carving up. Like that was sort of the depth of our little Stanthorpe soccer team when it came to playing carnivals and. But it got to in high school where it was clearly starting to take like another leg up, and this is when in under 14s you made the Queensland Metro side. That's where that kicked off. So tell us about, I guess, how you made it into that team in the first place, and then you guys went to Canberra for the national titles.
So with that, I made got asked to go trial. I was playing striker for Southwest at that stage.
Yeah, right.
And I was scoring a goal a game, and it was halfway through the season, and we were losing 7-1 or I don't know 10-1 and stuff like that. And I was just like, God, this actually
classic
sucks.
Southwest.
But yeah, I was scoring a goal a game, and I got invited to trials at Cleveland. So Tuesday afternoon, Stanthorpe to Cleveland for a good couple of months, and they go, "Oh, we got too many strikers," and I was like, "Oh, what do you brought me here for? Like this, like, are you guys kidding yourselves?" Like. But then they like, "Well, we'll give you a go at centre back," and I was like, "All right, cool. Like, I'll have a go." And then I kept training there for like the next month or so, and then they told me I made it centre back, and I was like, "What? Like, centre back must be easy." Not played there.
That's an interesting transition. Like, you hear about professional footballers who are like, "Oh, I used to be this, and then I became this." It's usually in the form of like a goalkeeper who's like, "I really wanted to play in this position, but nah, you're gonna have to be in goal, mate." And next minute you're Luigi Buffon. And,
you're carving up. But yeah, they put me at centre back, and from there just kept training at centre back and right back. So I made the Queensland Metro team, which I got notified by a letter, and Mum bought the letter in high school, and I was like, "Oh, that's sick."
Mad.
Like,
that's mad.
Yeah, that's sweet. So we went to Coffs Harbour for the like nationals, played there, and I think 9 of the boys in the team made like the all-star squad or whatever.
Yeah, right. So there were a couple of names in that 14 squad. Was there anyone who you ended up sort of going on to Raw Youth with, or anyone who's gone on to other A-League or anything that was in that 14s?
In my age group, I think there was like Jordan Thurtell played like with the young goalkeeper, right? So played like young Socceroos, and Shannon Brady was at the Roar and whatnot. But I think a lot of them just kind of fizzled away. I think like they got pushed so hard in footballers when they were younger, and they just kind of fell out of love with the game.
Well, I can imagine it would have been. I can imagine that situation happening for a lot of those blokes. This is obviously the Queensland Metro side. So they're in Brisbane, and they're like top of their game in the junior football in Brisbane. And you can imagine how, like, the high stress of that, and like I guess like families really pushing you.
Yeah, and then
whereas
going
like
to school and playing for school as well.
Yeah, but like they're playing whatever, like 9As or something in school, and it's like they don't have a farm to go back to. They don't have like, I mean, you obviously had the not necessarily the pressure, but like I guess the stress.
I could get away from it all.
That's right.
Back to Stanthorpe.
You could get out of there, and you know, we'd all be at home, like, you know, when you were coming back from training and that, it's like, well, we don't. None of us are like, you know, trying to beat you into the team or anything.
No one's smashing me because I like didn't make a team or made a team. So a lot of them made it, and then I found out when we were down there was a thing called the Queensland Academy of Sport, which I never knew about. I didn't know anything about it. Got invited to trial there, and I was lucky enough I made it there, and I was
Did it like sort of most of that team go through to
I think
QAS?
there was about like 6 of us, and then later on they filtered through later on. But like in that initial intake for the first year, like there was only like 6 or 7.
So the reason why, because obviously you guys were basically a Queensland representative side. When you went into QAS, was it at a different age? Like was it at, like technically an older age group? So why was only sort of 6 taken rather than like the whole sort of team?
Because a lot of the other boys went to AIS, so it's Australian Student Sport. Yeah. So then going from the Metro side, it was just a representative side. It wasn't really anything. But then QAS was more, you play there for the season instead of playing for Southwest and whatnot. Yeah. And then you played in the under 19 QSL or whatever it was back in the day. So you're 14, 15 playing in that. And then they had a senior team that played in the men's competition. So then that was 4 times a week to Brisbane plus game.
Yeah, I think this is the point where it really kicked off. So we obviously saw you go away to the Nationals, and we're like, all right, so Camo's made like that's the first serious rep team. Like that's more than just Southwest. Like this is the real deal. And then it became, all right, well we're not going to see Camo from lunchtime from 12 o'clock,
12:30, yeah, gone
Monday to Thursday. And that was the rest of your high school. And before we get to Raw Youth, it was like, well, you know, this is a serious investment now. Like you're traveling to Brisbane 4 times a week, like
just for training.
Just for training. Yeah. So tell us about, I guess, what was it? You know, what was the structure of playing for QAS, and how many years did you sort of do that for?
Yeah.
And then I guess we'll get to Raw Youth after that.
Before that, like going to the Nationals with the Queensland Metro side, I was actually invited to go on that Italian trip. I came at a crossroad where I had to make a decision of whether I could come to Italy for 2 weeks or go to the Nationals.
Us for our
but I was still trialing at that stage, and luckily enough that came off, and I was like, thank God. I'd been pissed if I didn't make it and then didn't get to go to Italy.
Yeah.
But QAS, it was, we were in Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday off, so I'd stayed at school all Wednesday, but luckily enough, sport was on Wednesday hours, so it was no classes. Great for me. I'm not academic, as you know, but then Thursday, Friday, back up there, and then Saturday for a game, so I was just leave school at 12:30, get back at 9:30 at night. Generally, Dad would drive. And then when I got my L's, I drove and got my 100 hours.
Got your hours
like 2 months. So, so with that, we just... I think it was more we'd train most of the year. Yeah. Then at the end of the year, we'd go down to NTC and play against all the other institutes down at the AIS. Yeah. And we won it the second year I went down there. The curriculum came in, it's like a playing style and point style. Yeah, we came like first on playing style because we were playing to the curriculum that FFA wanted and whatnot.
Wow. I never realised that such a thing.
So we came first on that and then second on points. And then we beat New South Wales like 5-1 in the final.
Style of football, isn't that weird?
Yeah.
What do you remember any of like the criteria of what it meant
it's
to
more
be
just
a
like
style?
because it was when FFA and the Socceroos were going through that whole thing of you must play out all the time. You got to get your midfielders on the ball.
So I didn't realise that like this Dutch system was just being thrown, you know, straight in your faces from an early age.
Yeah, like through QAS, like through every institute and everything, like FFA, head hunchos down, wanting us to play that, I guess, Gus hitting away, like 4-3-3 system, centre-backs can't lump a ball. I mean, there was 2 years where I didn't play a long ball as a centre-back, and it's crazy when you look at it now. I'm playing long balls for fun, but just trying to get it out of my feet, but it really made you, I guess that developed my side of the game where I could pass and play short balls and everything, but it was always play and keep playing. But when you look at it from a winning point of view, you're overplaying and you're feeding into other teams' hands. Yeah. But that's the way they wanted us to play. They wanted us to always play into the holding midfielder, or always play to our fullback, and you turn the ball over, concede a goal, and it's like, you know, clap, clap, freaking well done. Like you conceded a goal, and it's like that was the new norm of my life, playing out at every cost. And trying to find a way to play it. And it probably helped me, but I think over the time, the amount of goals that we can
I really wonder like how many other national systems are playing to like a standardized style of football. I can't imagine Brazil, France, Spain. Like if you talk about like Brazilian football and what they call like jogo bonito, like beautiful football. Yeah. That's like playing like free. Like that's playing off a whim, and like obviously there's some supremely talented players and the football's so deeply embedded in the culture, like they can have the freedom to do that. Yeah. But it just seems that sounds just so mechanic and like robotic that
Yeah,
There's a reason why the Socceroos haven't had like a whole lot of success.
And it's funny you say the robotic thing, because coaches turn around and go, we're doing this passing pattern, and it's just constantly doing it. And they go, I don't want you to be robots. Like, I don't want you to continually do the
You're
same
like,
thing.
mate, I feel like a robot.
But like, you're telling me we're doing the same thing. I get the ball from the keeper, I play it to my right back. I get the ball from the keeper, I play it to a six. I'm like, how are we not robots? Like,
Yeah, it's like stifling the kind of creativity and like innovation.
Yeah.
That's the difference between like a team like Australia, who's you know regularly between like 30 and 60 in the world rankings, and anyone higher, because they don't have
and with that style, like you said, like they're stifling talent. Like, the players would get crucified for dribbling a ball. Yeah, I was like, well, what's your winger meant to do? Just not beat a player? Like, that's a defender's dream. If your winger's just going to get the ball and just go, oh, I'm just going to pass it somewhere else, you're like, no, job done.
Whereas like the encouragement or like the safe to fail element of like, just, you know, use your skill to beat your opponent. Like, it's safe football to keep passing it around all the time, but like,
I think that was my downfall. They just took away all my talent.
Like, maybe they should have had you back up front, mate, scoring goals.
God damn.
So this is obviously QAS, and you're being, you know, taught this system. When, like, exactly how did it transition between QAS and Brisbane Roar? Because there was like some overlap there for a little bit, but where did Brisbane Roar first, you know, start talking to you?
I think, when I was maybe 15 or so, but prior to that, I actually was in a period of my life where I actually started hating football. I was like, this just seems like a task, like constantly and whatnot. And
driving to Brisbane 4 days a week.
It kind of seemed like that, and I think we were lucky enough. Chris Brennan or Singe was at the AFL with the Lions Academy.
Stanthorpe boy.
Yeah, Stanthorpe boy was in the Lions Academy, and I almost convinced myself and partially convinced my parents that I could go that different avenue, and because I was a long distance runner and whatnot, I almost went to the Lions Academy just with no AFL background, just purely from the athletic perspective. I almost went to AFL, but I was glad I didn't, because later that year, like you said, I got invited to go on trial at the Roar, and I didn't know Raw Youth was a thing. Just like didn't know QAS was a thing. My parents were like, oh, what's the Raw Youth? Like, what's this? It's not Stanthorpe United. It's Stanthorpe. Like, well, Southwest. Like what's this? This is something different. And so I think it was like me and Jordan Lambie, both 15, I think, at that stage, and the other boys were 16 or 17, and like our crop kind of got invited into there and train for a while, and I think the head coach John Syme originally didn't offer me a playing contract, but offered me a training contract. So I just had to be there and train and whatnot, and with the option to be selected if they needed me.
Was it more like was it more like an option to be like selected at any point, or it was like, this is an incentive, and if you play well for this many months, you'll get selected, or if it was just like, mate, you could be called upon at any point?
It was like, if you're in the training squad, you're a registered player and you could play. Like, if someone was sick, you could play and whatnot.
But that did that not guarantee a youth contract? It was still like
just a training contract. So like, and they could just go, oh, we don't want you here anymore, and see you later. No money's exchanged, no nothing.
No risk to them.
Yeah, just a player that they might think has a little bit about them, but not enough for a contract at this stage. Then I was lucky enough, we like had an induction and got told like, you can't match fix, you can't like do this, no drugs. Like, Asada had all that big conversation, and obviously mum and dad had driven me there for that, because I was still underage and whatnot. And little of my knowledge, the head coach had a conversation with mum and dad, and I got into the car and mum and dad were like, congratulations. I'm like for what? Like, I've just come out of a meeting. Like, what am I being congratulated? Like, I got a jacket. Like, that's cool. I could have gone and bought one at Rebel if I wanted to. Like, they go, congratulations, and I was like, what are you on about? And they're like, you don't know, do you? And I was like,
no one's told me bloody anything.
Like, are you kidding me, mum? Where's the chocolate slice? Like, and then they go, oh no, like, you've been offered a youth contract, and I was like, what? Like, and I was like, holy shit, this is make believe. This team's not real. Like,
that's a pinch yourself.
Yeah, like, I just sat there in the XR6 at Olympic, because that's where we were training at that stage, and I was just like, nah. And I was like, nah. But
so did it take like a while to sort of sink in that you were now part of a professional organisation, or was it by the end of the car trip, or was like you still had to go to training and
I don't think it really sunk in at any stage. Like I said, I didn't think that they existed. Like, I didn't think this franchise existed. I didn't think this had happened. And then I sit down and I look through a contract and start signing my name, and then they start talking money, and I'm like, money's involved. Mum and Dad don't have to pay for me to do this.
Yeah.
Like this is money coming into my pocket. Go, Jesus, like this is starting to get like something crazy, like something for real.
This is now like you're in the professional football realm now.
Yeah, and like I'm involved in something pretty cool. And then so I think it was only like $60 a week or some. It was a small figure of money, but it's still money to play, right?
Yeah.
And that season I was playing with like Luke Bratton was in the team all the time, like Rocky Visconti, like Corey Brown, James Donachie, Matt Acton, like these players are well-established A-League players now, but I was a 15, 16-year-old kid playing in a youth league setup, so we'd play one home game, one away game against every A-League club, so we'd stay over for 4 places away trips, we'd stay away, but then like for the Sydney games or I think maybe Melbourne games, we flew in same day of the game.
And
then flew back home.
So this was happening by the time you're actually getting on the field playing games in Roar Youth. Was this in year 11 or was this in year 12? Like at what point?
Year 11 it was.
Year 11 you started to get games.
So end of grade 10, grade 11 I think it was, yeah. So and I think I played almost every game that season. It was an 18-game season, and then you went in and played. You played in the NPL when they brought that in. So you're playing all year round kind of thing, and the first couple of years I got contracts, and then Jeff Hopkins came in as a coach and decided that he didn't want to give me a youth contract but wanted me to stay home as a youth player, and I was like, oh, all right, like it's kind of weird, like I've played 2 full seasons here, and then he brought in a kid that played left back, and after the first 25 minutes of the first game he dragged him off the field and he didn't play again, and I ended up being in the squad again, and I didn't.
So there was a moment there where you were you questioning like whether you were sort of you thought it was done?
Yeah, I thought like done, like here you go, like whatever.
It would have been so unceremonial as well because you were like you're still there, like you're basically gone back to where you were when you were 15 and you'd signed that train deal, and it's like, okay, I played like 2 full seasons now, and now you're gonna go and put me on a train deal, like
it didn't make sense to me, and I was like, but so you still want me to be part of the squad, but you don't want to pay me for my services and stuff. So, but he ended up regretting his decision in the end because I ended up getting a contract again halfway through the year. So, and then from then, old coach came back in, kept playing. Found out I had a first degree AV block during that time.
Tell us about this. Yeah, tell us about this AV condition. Like, when did you know that you had this? Because it's a heart problem, right?
Yeah.
So when did you find that out, and did it have like an impact on your football at this point?
It was in grade 12. We went to a ski trip, and that virus went through our cabin, and
wasn't the coronavirus?
No, different virus. No, so yeah, we had that virus, and when I went to throw up, I just passed out, and it's happened to me probably a couple of times, and it's just like, I'm just sick kind of thing. And then I went and signed the contract for that next year, and we did a medical, and just like, oh, anything you want to talk about, and I was like,
I've been passing out.
I've been passing out when I throw up, like, and he goes, oh right, like get your heart tested. And I was like I'm not the smartest man, but I was like, sure, that's got to do with my brain. It doesn't have anything to do with my heart, right? Cost me about $3,000 in testing, cardiac MRI, fucking like pretty much just everything they could get me through, like 24-hour tests and everything. And originally they thought I needed a pacemaker, and Mum's back in Stanthorpe, and I'm telling her she's stressing balls, and I'm just like, Mum, I can only tell you so much as what I know, and it took me probably 2 or 3 weeks to get through that testing, and from the moment I got tested I couldn't play, and it was the first 3 weeks of that season of the youth league, so I couldn't play, and then just found out.
So can you describe what was actually sort of what was actually impacting, what was happening in your heart that was stressing them out with those tests?
Pretty much just irregular heartbeat, they say. It is, and it's found within athletes, and they just coincidentally that just when that happens, it just might skip a beat or something, and I just pass out when it just too much gets put on it and whatnot. So it went from you might need a pacemaker to just get a checkup, and I had the checkup started this year, which was 5 years later, and he reckons it's probably progressing better than what they thought. So it's just
Have you had any incidents that have been?
No, they talk about
that?
like whether you get like dizziness or anything like that, but I don't really get any of that. So
Except when you're on the piss.
Yeah, well that and just when I can't breathe from running because I'm fat. But that's beside the point. No, that's all. It's all fine for me now. And then you touch on other things like 2015, I did my MCL, and that was just before Liverpool had come over to play the A-League side. And that was, I guess it was a really heart-wrenching moment for me because Liverpool's like my favourite team. And knew that they were coming over, and I knew that I had an involvement in the squad for that. And I was meant to go on a 3-week holiday, and we were playing against Southwest in Toowoomba. And I was on the bench, and I was just on the bench just because it was Southwest, old club, and I was captain of the youth team. So they just wanted me to be there. And one of the boys gets cramps about 60 minutes in and subbed me on because he was a fullback, and I went and played centre-back. And I reckon it was probably the best I'd been tackling. Like I was actually winning balls in tackles. Like it's strange for me. I was actually winning the ball. I was playing well, and I just went in for a block challenge, and my left foot kind of hit and come through, and I just sat down subconsciously, and it just felt a sharp pain, and I was like, oh, this is weird. Like went over the sideline, and the physio starts doing testing and stuff. ACL's fine, and then does another testing. He's like, oh, that's not good. And I was like, no. Please, and no. I was like, I'm going to start running again. He's like, go on, stand up, start running. And I went to start running, and just knee buckles inside, and later on find like it's like the highest grade MCLT you can do without fully tearing it. It was holding on by a couple of strands. 6 weeks in a brace, and then another 4 weeks after that, and I was back playing. So 10 weeks post injury, I was back playing. But during that time, Liverpool had come over, and I was just like, you've got it. Someone's taking the piss out of me here. Like what the hell is going on? But I was lucky enough, like I went and watch the game and went and watch my favourite club. But I was just like,
it still would have been like an incredible experience at all for like a Liverpool fan to watch Liverpool live in Australia. But it would have been such a unique experience to be able to play against them if you did.
Just get
a call up on the bench.
Just let me sit on the bench and just take someone's jersey. I couldn't give a flying shit who it was, but just give me one of their jerseys. But
that would have been cool.
No, that was unfortunate. And then that was the MCL was the second season of. No, it was probably into my third or fourth season with the club, because I was there for 5.5 years.
So where was that progressing? So after
so I was out of school and whatnot. So
so once you finished school, how did what was the progression with the Roar like from those next sort of 2 years? Because you were like you said, like you were a bit of a stalwart of that youth team, and it was like, okay, like I'm being involved for a while now. Like your first year out of school, second year out of school, like what's happening in those seasons, and what indication did you get in those 2 years that to be able to be called up to play for the top team? Like when did you get that indication?
No, like I was training with the first team in pre-seasons, and then when they needed players in, and I played a few pre-season games, but just locally kind of thing. And then it wasn't until my I didn't know it was going to be my last pre-season with them, but I was doing pre-season with them, and they had me in for the full thing, and I was doing everything, and kept playing through. And then I was captain of the youth team, so I went back and played with the youth team for the 8 weeks that we did that, and then I was straight back into the first team. Then I started sitting on the bench more for the first team, and
this is the A-League season of 2016-17.
Yeah. So we made the Asian Champions League qualifiers, and I got named in the Asian Champions League squad, which that was kind of a sign for me that it was starting to, like, I was progressing to be part of that squad while still being on a youth contract. And what was it, like maybe January, February, it really started to pick up. We had a couple of injuries, and I started being on the bench more and more, and I was actually getting selected over young, like, players my age that were on A-League deals, and I was like, cool, like, and then...
And mate, we were getting so G'd up at this point, because when we were like, guys, like everyone in Stanthorpe was just getting so G'd up. It's like Camo's being named on the bench. We're like, is he going to play? Is he going to play? And like the first few games, it's like, nah, it's not going to happen.
And it just kind of got to a point where I was like, I was grateful, but when you look back at it, I was kind of ungrateful in my attitude, in the way that they're never going to sub a centre back on, right?
It's rare.
It's rare that they're going to do that. So I was just on the bench to be that defender that's, that's
in case there's an injury.
And then it happened to me a couple of times that there was an injury, but they just put someone from the midfield into a left full-back position and then just subbed the midfielder on. I'm like, shit, I'm not going to get my chance here. Like, this is crap. And like, I remember being in Perth, and I I was there just warming up, and then someone got injured, and I could have easily gone on and played in the back line, but they did that midfielder back in, someone else. I was like, I'm over this game. Like, I'm sick of this. This is shit.
So
like,
close, but without really being able to taste
I'm
it.
like, this is shit. Like, football sucks. And it's like, it doesn't. But, like, just in my mindset at that time, I was like, I've made it so far, but without doing anything. And then Luke DeVere goes down, and the game's 2-2. And then they're like, I'm just sitting there. And then the coach is like, hurry up, warm up. And I was like, hey, what are you on about? Like, and they're like, are you ready yet? And I was like, I guess
So this is not Asian Champions League. This is A-League. Do you remember what round of the season it was, or who was that against?
It was against Perth in Perth. So we were 2-2, and I think I came on in the 80th minute, and that's the worst time as a defender. I'm like, all I can do
the game's tied,
is
pressure's
ruin
on.
the game. Like, all I can do is ruin the game. See the headlines, Crestani, shit. Like, you've ruined the game. Like, Roar hates you. So I come on,
horror debut.
Yeah. So I come on, and we ended up drawing the game, and I was like, hell yeah,
That's a tick, mate.
done, bang, tick.
And I that moment was huge for us, because I can't remember where we were out somewhere, because I remember we were hanging out with Belly and a few other guys. Like, I think Kev might have been there, a couple of our mates, and it started going around like this party or whatever. Like, Cameron got on, like he played A-League. Like, that's the moment. Like, everything that you had worked for, like your whole life, the effort that your parents put in taking you to Brisbane, like 4 days a week from year 9 all the way up until year 12. The sacrifices that obviously that they'd made, but like financially and I guess like educationally on your schooling, that was the tick. If you didn't go any further, like, everyone still would have been like just as proud of you. But I guess you were still like, you were able to kick on a little bit from there.
Yeah, I think for me it really kind of set in. I was just sitting in the bus and had messages and people follow me on Instagram. I'm like, holy, I've got more than 5 followers. And then mum and dad called me and they put me on loudspeaker, and just the enjoyment you like to hear from them. I gone like, this is a way to repay them, and like I can never repay them. I know I can't. But they're such good people in a way that, like, they couldn't give a crap. Like, they will go, nah, we didn't help you do this kind of thing. Like, you did this, and just hearing the happiness in their voice and how excited they were. Just like mum just in the back, I was so proud of you, blah, blah, blah.
That would have been worth it. That would have been so worth it.
Just sitting there on the bus, and I was just like, fucking, like,
this is the best shit.
Like, this is, like, I've done something kind of thing. And I was lucky enough that 4 days later we played an Asian Champions League game, and against Wang Thong, like a Thailand team. They got like the Thai Messi, they called him, and whatnot. And we drew with them.
You got to start in that game.
And I played 90 minutes, and it was at Suncorp, and so I was lucky enough that mum and dad and my brothers and whatnot and a couple of mates and what could come to a few of my games that I was involved in. And so I went on and played a couple of A-League games and played a couple of Champions League games.
And it was that first Champions League game where it was Brenton Speed. Was it that the comments of Brenton Speed, the Fox Sports commentator, Donji with the nickname Granite Crestani, and you did have an awesome game. Like, like, I think there are still some highlights packages out there that sort of get shared around every so often with a few dominant tackles over that guy that they call the Thai Messi, and that's when we were like, it was cool seeing you come off the bench against Perth Glory, but when you got that start and I'm just watching Fox Sports and seeing you run around, I was like, this doesn't seem real.
I thought I just, like, it's just unreal. Just, I guess the atmosphere in those games, because it was midweek games, you didn't really get to live the spectacle that you wanted to live. But then we played Wellington, and it was just before we got smashed by a team in Korea a couple of days after the Wellington game. But
you went to that game in Korea?
I played that game. Yeah, we got smashed. But we played Wellington, and I had my family there. You know,
who else was there? Yeah, I was there, mate.
That was the first.
The family would have been good, but no, I was at that game as well, because that was your home debut starting
in the A-League
against Wellington Phoenix, and I remember seeing you out on the pitch and just being like this. I felt like a little bit emotional, being like, we like played together from like the early years. And it's like someone who's like my mate, like someone who is from Stanthorpe, just like our little town on the border of Queensland, New South Wales, mate, you were out there doing your thing, and I was so proud of you at that moment. An unfortunate end to that game, some might say.
Yeah, life goes on. But we just talked about the start where I could walk out and see my family. Yeah, unfortunate to that. And then, so I'm starting to play and whatnot, and I have the conversations with the coach, like, how am I going, blah, blah, all this, start talking. I don't have an agent, just talking to him, how am I going? Kind of put it back on me and go, how do you think you're going? I'm like, well, I don't know, I can't gauge it. I'm just a young footballer. Like, you're the one selecting me.
You're doing
other
the best
people.
that you can.
And I'm getting selected over people for preliminary finals to sit on the bench and semi-finals. Like, so I'm like, with, I guess everyone in that situation's going, well, I'm in with a shot here for an A-League contract, right? Like, surely, like, I'm playing over A-League contracted players. I'm sitting on the bench over A-League contract players. Like, I'm going to cost you minimum wage in a club that doesn't have much money. Like, surely this is somehow all making sense with someone that's been at the club for 5.5 years. And then I go and have the discussion, and they go, well, don't have an A-League deal here for you. We're going to sign someone that's so-and-so who's 30-odd years old, and turns out he leaves the club after a year. But
that was Avram Papadopoulos.
Yeah, good footballer to his credit, but you're not really looking at your youth at that stage. So then I kind of emotionally call my time on Brisbane Roar.
So that was, if we reset the whole thing that we've gone through here, we spent all that time traveling QAS, Raw Youth, Captain Raw Youth, where like you have done literally everything that they've asked you to do. You've got the call up to play in the A-League professional football. You're sitting on the bench on top of blokes that A-League contracted. Yeah. Like what more could you have done? Like it just doesn't make make any sense why obviously Brisbane Roar would probably, I think they were confused in themselves as who they were as a club at that time. Like there was obviously a lot of injuries in their backs at the time. Like they had to sign Avram Papadopoulos on a short-term contract. And I don't know. It's just frustrating. Not just obviously from you from a personal standpoint, but just like I think without being sort of like too defamatory on Brisbane Roar, but just sort of the techniques that they went through to have players like you on youth contracts, not even being paid a wage. The fact that you had to stop going to university to be a full-time professional footballer, and you were earning more money from Centrelink than you were as playing A grade. Yeah. That is such bullshit.
Yeah, I guess it's $60 a week to play in the first team.
No match fees to play professional football.
No, and I think I was lucky though to get to that stage because Josh McLaughlin was my youth coach, and the Aloises, from conversations I've had, they wanted to get rid of me that year before you was made captain. Yeah, and Josh goes, nah, you got to keep him. Like, just trust me. Like, I've had him work with him at QAS. Like, I've worked with him here. Keep him. So I owe it a lot to him that having that discussion with them to keep me in that setup for that extra year, and I stayed there and ended up playing there. So I was lucky enough with that. But then, just the way that it was all handled was, I don't know if agents do it differently, but for me, just on a personal term, it's just like, well, okay, all right. So then from then, after having that discussion, I've gone, well, I haven't had a break from football in about 5 years. I'm going to have a couple of weeks off and see whatever happens.
So reflecting on your time at Brisbane, because like playing for Brisbane Roar, it was a championship side, and there were still players around at Brisbane Roar who were Socceroos. Like you obviously had John Aloisi as your coach, like one of the favourite sons of Australian football. Who do you think? Were there any players that you played with that you really appreciate the time that you got to spend with them, or people that you think really helped develop your football and take it to another level?
I mean, I was really lucky to play alongside Jade North in a couple of the games that I got to play. And he's just the knowledge that he can give you is second to none. But then you got players like Matt Mackay, Jamie McLaren, you got Brandon Borrello, like all these Luke DeVere, all these boys are just ridiculous. Theo and like Michael Theo, Jamie Young as your goalkeepers.
It's a pretty star-studded team.
Yeah, but I think the one player that really helped me that shouldn't have given a flying shit about who I was and what I did was Thomas Broich. A guy in his own right that should be playing Bundesliga football. Like, if he stayed in love with the game, he'd be playing Bundesliga football. Yeah. But here's a guy that's at the peak of his game in Australia, like winning all these medals and whatnot.
Arguably the greatest player to actually play in the A-League.
Yeah, agreed. Playing in an attacking position, turning around to me, having discussions with me during training about my decision making and stuff like that, and really, but he, not just for me, he did a lot for a lot of people, and for someone of his caliber to turn around and do that, I go, Jesus Christ, like, it speaks volumes of the guys.
Yeah, that's unreal.
But how did the Raw not keep hold of someone like him? Like, you know, he did a lot for me, and like even past players like James Donachie and all those guys, like he each had a bit to play in how I played, but Jade North was a big help for me, and Thomas Broich, and then you got players like Matt Mackay and that just help you around and make you feel welcome in the team, and it's just like, geez, what more could you want? Like,
what more could you want? Yeah, and what an experience, not just being able to get to that level, but to be able to immerse yourself in like some quality, like around some quality footballers who, even though like the Raw dream did come to an end, pretty unceremoniously at the end of that season. Like I'm sure it's still like you would do the whole thing over again if you had to.
100%, I'd go through everything again just to be there and do what I did. And
so when that sort of came to an end, like you said, you took like a couple of weeks. What was your decision-making process after Raw was finished? Like, we know where you ended up and we know where you are now, but what went through your head when the professional, like, you know, you're basically on the verge of becoming like a full-time professional footballer? Yeah. And then it sort of just gets ripped out from underneath you. What was going through your head at that time? What led to your next move?
I guess that's probably where agents come into play. And for me, I don't know, I just felt like I just wanted to stay away from that kind of thing. I just went kind of like, if I've done well enough, like, people will find a way to contact me. Yeah. Like, if I feel like I should be at that level, or people feel like I should be at a level, people will contact me. And if they don't contact me, then that's kind of like I can't really do much else. Like, I can't go to a coach saying, hey, blah blah.
Please sign me.
Yeah,
like,
they go, who are you? Like, I'm sure they would have seen me if they wanted to see me, and if they didn't want to see me, they didn't want to see me. Like, they got better things to worry about. And so for me, it was just going to an environment that I can enjoy, I guess, being like training and enjoy games, and somewhere where my family could enjoy coming to watch games, and somewhere that was close enough, and yeah.
So we know that obviously that led you to Western Pride out at Ipswich, but was there any communication at all with any other A-League clubs between there? Like, was there any murmurs, or did you get put in front of any clubs?
Not really. No, I didn't. Like, when I was at Pride, I got to go and train with like Sydney and whatnot, but those guys generally have their own recruiting process and stuff like that. So I guess for me, it was just going back to I guess a level below, and just trying to perform and see what would happen. And like I said, like, if people want to notice you in the NPL, they'll notice you in the NPL, and they'll invite you to trial and whatnot. But,
well, there's not really a better environment to be in if you're not a professional footballer. If you're playing in the top league, you're giving yourself the best chance. So you start out at Western Pride. So the first season with Western Pride was 2017.
Midway through 2017, I joined them, and they're coming 8th on the table at that stage.
Right. So the season had already, because their season is not the same. It's not fully aligned with the A-League, is it?
No. So when you're at the Raw Youth, if I stayed there, I would have just continued to play NPL with them.
Oh, of course. Yeah.
So I joined them halfway through the season. Well, just before halfway, because the transfer deadline cuts off at June, I don't know, whatever. So I signed with them after having 3 weeks off. Trained with them for a week, and lo and behold, Brisbane Roar Youth's the first game that we play. And I go...
Oh, you just want to beat these bastards.
I just want to kick the shit out of these kids, right? Turn up, did 2 or 3 sessions, go and beat the Roar Youth 6-0, and I don't think there's any better way to, I guess, come over that period in my life, right? So we go on and we win 12 out of 13 games.
That's a hot end to the season.
Yeah, with the addition of like Harry Sawyer and whatnot, and so we go through, and Dylan Wenzel-Halls was scoring goals at that stage as well, and
scoring bags of goals.
Yeah, and we finished 3rd, and we go down to Gold Coast and we beat them. So, and then I think Strikers played Moreton Bay, and Strikers were 1st, Moreton Bay was 4th. Moreton Bay beat them, so it was, and we'd obviously beat Gold Coast, so we were the highest place finisher, so we got to host the final.
So that was the grand final was in the first
My
season.
first season when I was there.
For some reason I had in my head that it was a second. So
No, so yeah, I joined
all the way to the grand final.
So all the way to the
season.
grand final first season, and I scored the first goal of the final, and obviously that's not really well spoken about because Dylan Windsor-Hall goes and scores
Don't
a
worry,
free
mate.
kick.
I saw it. I was there.
Dylan Windsor-Hall goes and scores a free kick in the 89th minute to win a game 2-1 that most people would just think it was 1-0 because of the free kick.
But mate, that free kick.
Yeah,
was insane.
good free kick to be fair to the kid. But yeah, to have 3,500 people out at Ipswich was a pretty good feeling because everyone's quite packed in and it was a good community.
And there was you could tell that it was just a good vibe amongst that Western Pride crew at the time. A lot of awesome young players going around, like obviously Dylan Wenzel-Hall has now gone on to play for Brisbane Roar. I guess what was sort of talked about around that time was that the reason why a lot of the, blokes like you and a lot of these good young players were joining Western Pride is because Ipswich had an A-League bid in, right? Did that influence a lot of people's decisions to play for Western Pride at all?
I think the A-League bid came in after I started there, but Carl Dodd was a big reason. Like, a lot of guys went there, and a lot of those boys were at QAS with me previously. Yep. So Carl Dodd was a good coach there. And
former A-League player himself.
Yeah. And then Graham Harvey became the coach there, and Carl Dodd oversaw everything. So Graham was probably one of the best coaches I've had to date, but they already had these boys playing in the NPL for 2 or 3 years, so even though they were my age or below. So already a good tight-knit group that probably needed the addition of 2 players, and I guess that's where Graham and Carl got like Harry Sawyer and I in. And then, so it was more actually, we were a bunch of friends that wanted to win football and we just hated winning football. We'd go out in the piss together and whatnot, which probably doesn't sound good for that level, but we just wanted to do it. Yeah, we just wanted to do it for each other and like the ability to go and win a grand final and bring that to the area was good. And then stemmed on from that, there was talk about that A-League bid. Yeah. And that's why a lot of boys stayed for that second season there, and we ended up losing Dylan halfway through the year, which we're losing...
Lost 20 to the A-League, right?
Yeah, we're losing 20 to 30 goals in a striker there, right? So we ended up finishing, I think it was maybe second or third again. Yeah, because I think and we lost to Olympic in the semi-final. Yeah. And we lost to them 2-1, and we were probably pretty hard done by, but I think we exceeded a lot of people's expectations after halfway through that year. So then there was still talk about that A-League bid, and then it kind of got... they give it to Western United and MacArthur or whoever they gave it to. So after that, a couple of the boys were just like, well, I've been here for 4 or 5 years, so it's time for me now to move on, kind of thing. Yeah. Even though after signing contracts, which really didn't mean anything, you can get out of those contracts quite easily. But I made the decision to stay on. Had a new coach come in, and he ended up. He was quite good. Did
you just feel like, was the reason that you stayed on, because obviously all these other guys left to go to more competitive, like it was clear that...
Yeah, they just went to like Lions and other teams in the same competition.
Did you feel like there was some kind of loyalty that you needed to show to the club, or you just...
I just thought, out of respect,
that kept you there?
Out of respect, you sign a contract and you should see that contract out. And I just thought that, like I said, I sign a contract and I'm going to stay there for the year. That's what I'm going to do. So I was just like, well, there's players leaving. We need players in this team. I'm going to stay. I'm not going to abandon ship. And I had plenty of opportunities to do that. Clubs calling me, contacting me first couple of games, even before that come here. I was like, nah, I'm staying here doing this. Yeah. So we had a new coach come in, and he had the vision of playing me as a 6 because he thought too small for a centre back and I could be a midfielder. So he started playing me and in there and whatnot, and he was overseas coach.
6 being a centre defensive mid.
Yeah, just a midfielder. Yeah. Yep. So. He had a vision of that, and then he had visa issues and had to leave the club, and so then Terry Kirkham took over, and Terry's a good coach, and like a really good coach that knows what he wants. He's well established and been unfortunate not to get his time in the top leagues. He's plied his trade in professional leagues and under professional people, so he's been unlucky not to be given a gig at an A-League level. He's coached 3 or 4 NPL teams up here, 3 or 4 down in Victoria. Right. So he was just a 20s coach at that stage for like our 20s team. So when that coach left, and he kind of just had no decision, he was the only one with an A license. Like, we either have to fold or he takes kind of the keys, and so he has to take over a team that he hasn't hand selected, and to his credit, he did well with the team that he was given. No pre-season, straight into the second or third game of the year. So obviously he's working really hard behind the scenes with the connections that he's got and whatnot to try to find players that are maybe unhappy and whatnot. But yeah, I went on and we were in games, but we weren't. We were just playing with a really young side. We
just didn't quite have, like, it's not like the effort wasn't there. No. It was like when you compared like that team that you had that won the championship and then obviously fell short the following year.
Yeah.
It was just like the system was there, the effort was there, but it just didn't have the same level of talent on the park.
Yeah, and I think we were probably underdone in pre-season by our like previous coach that didn't really believe a lot in conditioning, just wanted to be playing a lot, playing football a lot. So we were underdone in match fitness, and like we were drawing 2-2 with Gold Coast Knights in the 92nd minute, and we lose a game 3-2, and they win the competition, and we get relegated because we're equal points with someone else, but shit a goal difference. So you look back at moments like that, and you're like, God, like if you could just see out a game like that and just take a point, you take that point. So different. You take that point and run. But yeah, I think it was for about 6 to 8 weeks in that season. Just had a niggly knee issue, and every time probably about 50 minutes into a game, I'd go to turn sharply, and I just couldn't. I had to do a U-turn, and I guess not because I was fat, but just like turning like a B-double truck. Like I just had to do it. Like I couldn't sharply turn, and that obviously affected when you're in the midfield and you're trying to turn sharply and whatnot.
It's not like you're at the back where you can kind of
not where I was at centre back, and Terry copped a fair bit of stick because everyone's going Cameron's a centre back, like playing at centre back, and well Terry's going, well he's actually playing in the midfield and dominating the midfield, and we're trying to give him a chance to move on forward, like to an A-League club or to a professional club, and giving him that option of having that experience of playing in another position. So, but yeah, I bit the bullet and decided to have the clean out done on my knee. And
was this related to the MCL injury that you'd had prior, or was it a new issue?
It was just from overuse, I guess, and I just tore the meniscus, had cysts in my knee, and cartilage damage. So it was just a clean out, and it was a 6-week turnaround, and kind of just decided there was the 6 hardest games of the season, I guess, in a clump, in a kind of a way, and kind of looked at the draw and I went, well, we're going to struggle to win those games if I play or if I don't play. So I might as well just bite the bullet and get this done now, and hopefully give myself and the team a run of 12 games in the back end of the season where we can hopefully turn it around. So I got that done, and Terry was able to make some signings that he wanted to make and to get some players over, and we actually started performing, and he always said it was going to be the last 8 weeks that you'll actually see what he wanted to happen. And well, I think we ended up winning 7 out of the last 12 and drew 2 of them, and we fall short by goal difference in the end.
That close.
And yeah, you just kind of look back on it and you look at the results that didn't go our way, like in other games, but in games ourselves, and we ended up getting relegated. And
this is the first season of Football Queensland instituting a top to bottom relegation promotion system, right?
Yeah, I think it was, and they decided that it was going to be 3 teams instead of a usual 2 team,
right?
2 team up, 2 team down, and we were the third team. So you look at that and you go, oh, shit, because now this year it's only 1 team up, 1 team down. So it's like, because they were trying to
right.
So they were trying to even out their numbers in QPL and in the NPL.
Okay, right.
So, I was just like, well, I'm only 23.
You don't really want to be playing second tier.
No, I don't really want to be playing QPL, and especially that I've played, I think, worked out I played 132 NPL games.
So that's quite a lot that's not a long period of time.
No, so it was, I think NPL came in 2014 or 2015 maybe. So I was probably one of the top 5 or something that have played the most amount of games in the NPL. So I went, 130 odd games, and I kind of had that discussion with the GM of Western Pride. I said, look, I'd stay, but I'm aspiring to get back into professional football, and I can't see myself playing QPL for a year, that helping me.
Yeah.
I need to be.
Was he understanding of your situation?
I think he was just disappointed mostly because you don't want to lose a player, I guess.
Especially for them, because they're obviously, like, you can imagine like a Premier League team getting relegated. Like, they know that the top players are going to want to stay. Going to want to stay in the top league.
Top league, yeah.
But for that team that get relegated to want to come back into the top league, they're going to need to keep like some good players. Like when we see like teams like Leeds who have recently been promoted.
Yeah.
Like they've got a gun team playing in the Championship. That's why they've been promoted. So you'll often see that like in. Like I think like in the Premier League, seeing teams like Sunderland or like Portsmouth just go further and further down the league, just because once you lose one league, you lose, like no one wants to play for you. Like so that's a losing team. And you go down again.
Especially if those players have experience in that top league, like and you got plenty. Like maybe if I was 34, 35 and I was almost done my career, then I'd go, well, it's one last season. I'll cop it, stay there, finish it out. Thank you very much. Like I'm done.
John Terry at Aston Villa style.
Yeah, but for me, I was 23 and I go, well, there's no chance. Like this is not what I want, and I'm sorry, but that's football, and I've only got a career of another 10 years maybe if I'm lucky. I'm not going to I'm not going to hate the decisions I made, kind of thing. But during that time that I was at Pride, I had chances. Like I got offered to go to trial in the Philippines and trial in India, and then the potential to go play in Iceland. But I was like, I'm not going to fly my own way over to Philippines when the teams over there hadn't even competed in the Asian Champions League. And I knew a couple of players that were playing over there. So my football resume was well above their football resume. So why should I have to go on trial in a league like that? So I was like, and money was very similar to being here. So like, why would I want to leave and go over there when I didn't really see an opportunity?
Right, so the money itself was not too different from just playing NPL. Yeah. Okay.
But it was a professional league over there. So I was just saying, well, it's not going to help me. That isn't go and play in the second division in India. I'm not going to go play cricket, man. Like, you know what I mean?
That would have been an incredible lifestyle change.
Big difference.
And the problem with going to India wouldn't have just been, this is just, it's the same as the NPL and money wise. It's like, mate, you're going to pick up and live a completely different life in a different, completely different culture. Like India's not one of those places where you can just like pick up and go and start living like in New Zealand or England, for example.
Yeah, so
there's a lot of risks there.
Iceland was a very close, very, very close to me going, and then they ended up signing a guy that's played 50 La Liga games. So I'm like, oh, that's fine. Like, guys played against Messi. Like, see you later.
Yeah,
like,
he must be pretty handy.
Yeah. So then it came to the end of 2019, and well, not the end, but probably the end of the season. So September time, and as every club does, and they start contacting people and people contacting left, right, and centre kind of thing, and the relationship I had with Terry and I valued his opinion a lot and whatnot. He'd worked with Peninsula Power before, and he's like, you've only really got 2 or 3 clubs in your mind that if you want to play professionally again that you should want to go to, and that's Lions, probably Olympic, and Peninsula Power.
Yep.
They're probably the 3 that you'd really want to go to. And I knew a couple of the boys at Penn Power, and I was like, well, this is kind of me, and I'm in the box seat. Like, what do you have to offer me? I guess it was strange because I've never really been in that position before where I've had clubs now tell me what they want, and I guess it's a really...
How many clubs did you sort of chat with between Western Pride and signing for Penn Power?
Well, it would have only been like 2 or 3, but then it's like you have a list of clubs that are going to contact you, like, and you kind of just go like, appreciate it, but like I'm not even going to engage in this not even going to engage in this because I don't see you guys kind of. But you don't say that to them, right? You're just like, no, thanks for it, but I see myself doing something else and going to another team, and I've already had talks and blah blah.
Yeah.
Like, they're always going to message you and see where you're at. Like, so yeah, like I said, you just kind of could sit back and they could offer me whatever they wanted to. But you've kind of got to, I don't know, if you're not experienced enough, you got to see through their bullshit in a way. Like, they go, I can offer you this, and this is what we want to do, and I can help you get here and help you get there. But the amount of, I guess, success stories from coaches saying that to people, I've seen like none. Like saying with my networks, I can help you get here and help you get there. Like the only kind of thing that I've had is the conversation with Terry, who's gone like, I can help you get to this club, and it's not like I can help you get to freaking Real Madrid and shit like that. It's more realistic person with it going, saying, like, I can help you if you do good enough and you're not an asshole and whatnot, like, and give you a good reference, and I can lead you to clubs that I've been at and have good relationships with people and stuff like that in the same league.
Is this, and when you're describing those clubs, is that within Australia or is that some...
Just within Australia, yeah. Generally it is. And I guess if anyone can offer you that outside it, then why haven't they done it before? And what proof do they have it before? And you get a lot of these young kids and whatnot that, younger than me, that come out and they think that a coach has told them this, or the technical director's told them this, or the president or whatever, and they go, I believe you then. And then 6 months down the track, they're not performing and they're being dropped or not being paid and whatnot. And it's just like, well, hello, like... So you've got to pick your clubs kind of wisely, and I guess that was probably my advice to a few people that had asked me. It's like, you got to find a club that you think you'll enjoy your football at, that you'll know one or two people and you can have your in that way. And then you just want a club where you can enjoy it and you can, I guess, develop as a footballer. So there's no point a coach going to you, I can help you get to freaking, I don't know, wherever you want to go overseas. So what can you actually do right now that's going to help me develop? And if I'm playing my best football, that'll handle itself, kind of thing. And I figure that'll handle itself. So you just want an environment where you can start playing your best football and be happy. So. And
you feel like you're receiving all of that as much as you wanted at Pen Power? This is like the best situation that you could be in right now?
I think so. I think everything that I had the discussion with them and whatnot, I think like at the start, like, I probably wasn't playing my best football, and that's probably just settling into a new group and trying to have everything sorted. But now, as I continue on and past COVID and whatnot, like I'm enjoying my football, and I guess that's probably showing in my performances and stuff at the moment. So I couldn't speak highly enough of the club at the moment, and that's not just because I'm there. It's like I'm living and breathing it at the moment, and they're doing everything right by the players and whatnot, so I couldn't be happier.
Are you getting similar vibes like to that premiership season that you had at Western Pride? Is there a vibe amongst the squad at the moment that you think you could be, headed for a special premiership win?
Yeah, I think I guess it's harder because it's a full season. So the boys have had a rough first half of the season, but put themselves in a good enough position when I came to Pride that we could go on and sneak into third spot or whatnot. So, but I get I guess being in a semi-professional environment, like alcohol does become drinking with the boys becomes a thing, right? But that becomes a thing that makes your team better in the way that, not from a sports science way or anything like that, right? And I'm not saying I know sports science, but I know that drinking piss doesn't help you, right? But if you're able to say, hey boys, I'm going to watch a NBA game at Sporting Globe or whatever, who wants to join me? And 9 out of your 15 turn up. You've got a half an idea that your squad enjoys being around each other.
Yeah.
It's not a training session where people are turning up because they have to. If you're able to message and say, I'm doing this, or
they're
doing
turning
this,
up because they want to.
Yeah, they want to be around.
Yeah.
So if you can have that, that, and if you've got the talent there, you're pretty much 3/4 of the way there, and it's just 90 minutes each week that you have to perform together. But that people, when shit's going tough, that they'll do the job for you. And if you say something and you want them to do something, you've earned that respect, and they'll do the job for you. So
unreal. Yeah. So we're getting towards the pointy end of this. Well, so still a few rounds to go, and then we've got finals coming up in a few months. That'll be the season. Let's just put ourselves into the future. Peninsula Power take home the championship. Cameron Crestani, team of the season, which you could be in line for with the amount of team of the weeks that you're getting. But that's a perfect season. You take home the championship. Yeah. You can make the team of the year. You're clearly I guess in current form, you probably are in the top 3 or 4 centre backs at least that are playing in the NPL Queensland. What happens next year? You're going to run it back with Peninsula. You're still going to keep your ear to the ground with professional football. Obviously you've got some career things in the works as well. What does the next 2 or 3 years look for you, football and career wise?
I guess like you said, winning, it's probably the first thing that I'd like. Who doesn't like winning big trophies and get to have a big booze up after it? Man?
That's what we play for.
That's what you play for. No, I think yeah, like you said, winning it, and anything personal that comes along the way comes along the way, and you get it, you get it, you don't, you don't. Like, it's at the end of the day, you just want to win. You want to be in finals football and whatnot. Peninsula Power, yeah. Like, I mean, I guess it's football. Like, I'm enjoying my time there now, but you don't know, 6 months down the track, you lo and behold could do an injury, and then you football's done for you, and then what do you fall back on after that? So for me, yeah, like, Peninsula Power is obviously in my mind. Professional football's still a thing that I aspire to, and if that comes along, it comes along, and I'd be grateful for the opportunity, and I wouldn't let it go. Just knowing what it was like being in it and being out of it, you know. So yeah, next 2 or 3 years, I guess it's just continue just to enjoy football, because you're done by the time you're 35, 36, like. And that's being generous, I guess, with you, if your body wants to hold up.
That's if you've had a good run.
Yeah, I think 27, the way my body's holding up. But no, I think, yeah, like, ideally, I just want to be enjoying my football, staying injury free. I guess in the next couple of years would be good. Like, and yeah, just being able to enjoy time with family and friends and stuff like that, because what COVID's taught, I guess, a lot of people, there's a lot more outside of sport. Like, sport's freaking super, but you've just got to appreciate what you've got where you've got it.
Yeah.
Things can be taken away so quickly, so just enjoying time with mates and whatnot. And
you've obviously got some nephews and nieces running around at the moment.
Yeah, running around. No kids of my own that I know of. But,
that we know of.
Yeah,
we don't want to delve too deeply.
That's
into
a big, bold, italicized, double underline. No, but just, yeah, I just want to continue the, I guess, life as we know it at the moment without COVID would be great. Yeah, just you get to be around and play football. But yeah, ideally professional would be where I'd love to be at, and because I mean, there's no better feeling than being in that moment and realizing a goal that you've worked so hard towards, and people around you have worked so hard towards. Like, I've been there, I've seen what it's like. I'd love to be back there, but in reality, and in Australian football at the moment, it's a really hard scheme to get back into. And if the B League becomes a thing, then that's an easier avenue to get towards, like the league just under the A League. So yeah, if I can play professional football, I'll make a living out of it until I can, and if I can't, I'll find another way to make a living and enjoy life and just, I guess, be happy while I've got everything around me.
Yeah, that sounds great, mate. And I think that's you go in the right way about it, because when we're at this age, like, I think a lot of us, like, we've obviously got some friends who are like doing music, and we've got, friends who are, trying to play professional sports such as yourself, and it's like, while we're young, like, just have a crack at it, mate. Like, it's not like, like for myself, like, it's not like I was ever, like, was anywhere near, like, trying to ever, like, imagine, like, I think by the time I got to about 12 or 13 years old, I was like, okay, I'm not going to be a professional athlete. Like, I love playing sport just as much as anyone else, but I knew pretty early on that I wasn't going to crack it. So I haven't really had the thing to be like, oh, while I'm young, I'm going to do X. This is kind of it for me right now. Like, I'm working as, like, an accountant, and I'm like, bro, like, this isn't it, is it? Like, there's got to be something else that I can use, like, my youthful energy towards. And for me, it's like, well, I love sport. Like, I've always been to sports journalism, so, like, I'm gonna have a crack at this. You're gonna have a crack at being a professional footballer. We got mates like Kevin Collett and Chloe Minogue who are, getting stuck into their music. It's like, mate, like, what's the risk of just having a go at this age? Like,
I think,
why not?
Yeah, like you said, like, if you got something, you got the ability and the facilities to have a crack at something, like, you're going to regret something if you don't have a crack at it.
That's it.
So you might as well just give it a red hot crack, and then worst comes to worst, you just back to living the life that you were living, I guess. Like, like, there's no harm in having a go at something, and
at least you can say you've done it, eh? Like, you'd be kicking yourself if you got to, if you just cut it right now. Like, imagine if you, like, at the time where you lost your Brisbane Roar, you're like, no, like, that's done. And, like, the athletes are like that. Like, some of them are. They're just like, well,
that's like I said, like, earlier, like, a lot of people just fell out of love for the game, and you've just got to, if you can keep kicking on and just get through the little shitty patch that you're ever in, and get through it on the other side, then do it. Like, but I was just fortunate enough to have friends and family around me that just supported me no matter what. And we touched on it earlier, like, no one would have given a flying shit if I didn't make it to where I made it. But I was grateful that I made it to where I made it, and it was good that it was actually be able to give potentially people down the track from a country town a glimmer of hope of doing something in a wider scheme of things. Any kid that wants to play sport, it's achievable. Like, there's pathways to do it, and if you've really got the drive to do it, then like you'll achieve it. Just like, don't let anyone tell you otherwise, and you'll be flying. So I was lucky in that respect, and I'll be forever grateful for the opportunity that I had, and I'll still pursue that same opportunity. Whether it comes again, yes or no, but like I said, there's more outside of sport, but sport is a very big thing in this world, and life would be a very, very dull world if there was no sport. And
That's it,
I'm just lucky that I could earn a living out of sport and enjoy doing what I do.
Speaking of Stanthorpe, and I guess like being an inspiration to the younger generation, so there's been a lot of kids that have played junior soccer over the last 5 or 6 I guess since you've been in that Roar system over, like, it's nearly like going on a decade that you've been involved from QAS to where you are now. There's definitely like kids who are like looking up to you. Do you ever see, like, how much do you want to get back to Stanthorpe and play one game for Stanthorpe United? Is that on the bucket list to tick off one day?
Yeah, I think it is. I mean, they're like, it's your hometown. Like, I don't think there's anything greater than being able to go home and perform what people know you as. They know me as a footballer. So if I have the ability to go down there and play a game, I'll 100% go down. I've tried even at the MPL trying to get a game in Stanthorpe and whatnot. But mate, I just think, like, yeah, the pride to be able to do that would be good. I have a smile on my face as always, and people can heckle me or whatnot, but at the end of the day, I'm there doing something that I grew up in the town and the community from, and I go down there, and I always appreciate Stanthorpe for giving me the base and the grounding for what I've got these days. So yeah.
Yeah, I think that would just be unreal to see. At least at some point in your career, you might be well past your MPL days, and coming back and still having a game would be unreal. But I think, when you talk about Stanthorpe, I think you've been a great role model for like a lot of the younger kids who have come through that system. Like, you've shown, like, this is possible. I think one of the things that's been like super impressive from someone like you, and something that's probably helped you to remain grounded post like professionals, that like you've gone to like the professional level and you haven't lost like anything to do with Stanthorpe.
No.
We are still like the same group of mates from school. You're still going back there during summer sometimes and playing cricket down there. I don't know if Penn Powell knows about that. You've still we're still playing like NRL Supercoach together. Like it's like as if nothing's changed. And I think that's one of the things that we've always really appreciated about you, is that it's like, mate, you went and did the thing, but you're still level-headed. Like, you're the same bloke. You're from Stanthorpe to the core, and that's Stanthorpe at its heart. Like, that's what Stanthorpe breeds, and that's the professional athlete that we were able to produce. And I think you should be super proud of that.
Yeah, I just think, like, except for the night that I lost the bet and I had to wear my Roar jersey to Dunder on a night out.
Embarrassing.
Yeah. No, I just think that's just what's, I guess, like I said, I was lucky enough to have the group of people around me that kept me grounded, and a family that kept me grounded. So it's not like I'm earning 60 million a year that I like can get a big head or anything like that. But yeah, I think that's a big thing with anything. You've always got to have friends around you and family around you, and just appreciate what you've got and everything like that. So, but like, yeah, I was lucky enough to have friends like you and Kevin Belly and whatnot, and Alistair and whatnot. So for me, it was, I don't know why I'd want to go away from you guys.
I think there's a lot of people that have a lot of reasons.
Yeah, except I'd have to buy every round of drinks because you tight ass pricks, all the counting dogs. But no, I don't really know what else to say, except for like I just appreciated everyone from Stanthorpe and everything that they've ever like said about me, good, bad, nice, ugly. It doesn't really bother me, because ultimately Stanthorpe's a hometown for me, and I appreciate everyone's support, and it was overwhelming to see the amount of messages and everything from people from Stanthorpe. And they continue to still stay in touch and talk to me. They see me down the street and whatnot, because after all, we're all human beings, and life goes on, like I said, outside of sport. So it's not like I've found a cure for cancer or anything. I'm just a regular guy. So
Played a bit of football.
Just
There's a bloke who likes to play football.
Exactly right. Yeah.
Awesome, mate. Well, Camo, thank you very much for joining me on episode 1 of Bond's Backyard. Mate, it was an absolute pleasure. Good luck for the rest of the season.
No worries.
And let's hope we see you back out there playing professional football at some point.
Yeah, thanks, mate. It's been a pleasure to be on the inaugural episode, maybe the one and only episode.
The one and only, who knows?
No, but I appreciate your time and sitting down and having a yarn, and anyone who listens to it, appreciate the yarn, and get behind Bond. He's having a good crack here, and make sure you share his
subscribe,
page. Like,
5
subscribe,
stars.
follow YouTube. Peace out.
All right, thanks, Camo.
No worries.
Cheers,
Thanks.
mate.